emergency information they rely on. Text AM to 52886 and tell Congress to pass this bill now.
Message and data rates may apply. You may receive up to 4 messages a month, and you may text STOP to stop.
This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
Discover the fish and farm market at the Boston Fish Pier. Open every Saturday from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. in Boston Seaport. From fresh seafood to juicy tomatoes and sweet corn to grab-and-go options, indulge in the peak of summer's bounty. Support local farmers and enjoy the freshest ingredients all summer long. Sponsored by Mass Farmers Markets, a nonprofit dedicated to championing farmers markets across Massachusetts. Find a market near you at massfarmersmarkets.org.
Hi, this is Chuck and Mike from the Armstrong Advisory Group, and we've got a guide this month titled Frequently Asked Questions About RMDs. Mike, RMDs, or Required Minimum Distributions, what are they exactly?
Yeah, it's not something you really think about when you're 45 years old and putting money in there, but eventually the IRS forces you to start taking the money out. And so an RMD, a required minimum distribution, is an annual amount that you must start taking out once you hit a certain age. It used to be 70.5 for everyone. Now it's as high as age 75 for some folks on their traditional 401k and IRA assets.
So something like a Roth IRA for an individual would not have a required distribution.
Yeah, just one of the many benefits of a Roth IRA is that lack of a required minimum distribution for the initial account holder.
When you talk about how to figure out how much your required distribution is going to be, how do you determine what that amount is once you hit the age at which you qualify for them?
Talk to a professional, I think, is my answer, because it is pretty complicated. But the IRS publishes this giant table about uniform life expectancies, and then you have to, compare your age to the table, compare it to your year-end balance, and come up with that dollar amount. And that dollar amount is the one that has to be withdrawn by the year end of that year.
The guide is titled Frequently Asked Questions About RMDs, and the way to request it is by calling 800-393-4001. Again, the guide is titled Frequently Asked Questions About RMDs, and that phone number to request it is 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
We are the Debt Destroyer Network. Any debt you have, credit card, tax, student loan debt, call now for free information that helps you destroy your debt. It's great advice. Plus, when you make this free call now, we have debt destroyer experts ready to help. They can show you how to destroy your debt and get your life back on track. Debt problems don't have to be overwhelming. You can live stress-free and debt-free. Credit cards, medical bills, IRS tax problems, even student loan debt. Learn about free programs offered by the credit card companies, hospitals, and even the government that can help slash your debt. Call the Debt Destroyer now for free information. Call now. 800-430-8804. 800-430-8804. 800-430-8804. Again, that's 800-430-8804.
This Veterans Day weekend, help honor all who have served this country. Join us on Saturday, November 9th for the 9th Annual Disabled American Veterans 5K Boston. It's a run and walk to support the DAV Department of Massachusetts. Register now at dav5k.boston.
For 40 years, Cancer Support Community has been a relentless ally for anyone impacted by cancer, with free services provided online and in person, with their newest location in Massachusetts. Connect with Cancer Support Community Massachusetts for free emotional support, educational resources, patient navigation, financial counseling, and more. 617-797-3391. CancerSupportMass.org. CancerSupportMass.org.
The Financial Exchange is produced by Money Matters Radio and is hosted by employees of the Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. All opinions expressed are solely those of the hosts, do not reflect the opinions of Armstrong Advisory or anyone else. Investments can lose money. This program does not offer any specific financial or investment advice. Please consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong Advisory and the advertisers heard on this program do not endorse each other or their services. Armstrong and Money Matters Radio do not compensate each other for referrals and are not affiliated. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Mike Armstrong. Your exclusive look at business and financial news affecting your day, your city, your world. Stay informed and up to date about economic and market trends, plus breaking business news every day. The Financial Exchange is a proud partner of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. Help us support our great American heroes by visiting DAV5K.Boston and making a donation today. The DAV 5K Boston is presented by Veterans Development Corporation. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Mike Armstrong.
Chuck, Mike, and Tucker with you the day after Jay Powell strapped on the purple tie and said, "Hey, all y'all people who borrow money in American dollars, I hereby lower the federal funds rate 0.5 percentage point to 4.75 to 5% because we still can't get back to just calling it 5% or 4.75 because they instituted a range several years ago and we're still maintaining it for reasons that no one knows."
Quote unquote.
That's what I did.
That's exactly what he said.
Sincerely, Jay Powell.
Yeah.
Your thoughts, Michael?
So let's start off with the actual action, which I think everybody's heard at this point, but they did cut by 50 basis points, a 0.5% cut on the Fed funds rate. And as we talked about going into this meeting, it was a lot less certain than is usual the day before a meeting. Usually it's like 90 some odd percent priced in that they're going to go one direction or another. This time it was like 60-40 or 65-35. They had the first dissent of a voting member on the Federal Reserve since I believe it was 2005.
Correct. 19 years.
19 years. First time that they had a
Tucker
voting
was
member
3.
of the Fed. Just a glimmer in his father's eye. It was, again, this is a big move. You don't typically see a 50 basis point cut outside of times when they're very, very nervous about the economy. And so Jerome Powell spent a lot of time at the press conference in front of the podium trying to convince everybody that it wasn't because the economy was in free fall and that they were worried about it. And I mean, at least according to markets today, I think he succeeded to some extent.
I do think there are some pretty clear signs that it's not because the Fed is panicked that the economy is imminently falling apart. The first thing is that as part of this Fed meeting, we received what is called the Summary of Economic Projections, or the SEP, as it is referred to by those in the biz.
Yeah.
The SEP. And in that, the Fed details 5 different things. What they expect GDP to be, what they expect the unemployment rate to be, what they expect headline inflation to be, core inflation, and the federal funds rate. So they tell us basically how fast is the economy going to grow, how many people are going to lose jobs, what are costs going to do, and how are we going to handle it? That's pretty much what they lay out.
Right.
And they do this for, the next several years, and then they give long-run projections as well. But part of this is, hey, they say, look, this is where we think these rates are going to be at year-end. And the projected Fed funds rate at the end of the year is 4.4%, which if you do the math, you say, okay, they just cut to between 4.75 and 5, so 4.9, because, again, this stupid freaking range that they give now, instead of just saying this is where we're going to put them, which, by the way, they instituted during periods where interest rates were very low and markets were very stressed in order to give them wiggle room as to where they would keep them, but that's not the case now, so you can just go back to saying, hey, we want to cut it to 5 or 4.5 or whatever it is. Don't give us a range. It's fine. I'm just
very
a little
heated up about this.
It's these are the little
such a technicality.
I'm sorry, like, you're the freaking Federal Reserve. Just tell us where you're going to put the rates.
Okay.
Like, if you can't control it, then no one can.
Yeah, okay.
That'd be like the electric company being like, well, your lights are going to be, getting power somewhere between, X wattage and what. No, like you supply the power. Supply the power.
The cost per gallon is going to be between $3.62 and $3.82, depending on how I'm feeling about it when you pull up.
You show up to the grocery store. How much does that meat cost? It's between $3.50 and $3.75 a pound. Well, which is it? Come on. Anyways, Fed funds rate projected 4.4. Right now it's at 4.9, call it.
Yep.
0.5% by year end, 2 more meetings, 2 25 basis point cuts priced into those meetings. So a single cut at each meeting.
Sure.
If the Fed really thought the wheels were falling off, they wouldn't price it that way. They would have said, no, we think this is going to be going down to, 4.2 or something along those lines, or 4.1. And in fact, when you look at the dot plot, which tells you, hey, all of the voting and non-voting members, where did they actually specify they were going to have rates at the end of this year? There was only one person who had rates being below 4.4% at the end of this year. So there was basically no one on the Fed, either voting or non-voting, who said, yeah, we're going to have to be more aggressive at those next 2 meetings as well. So I think that tells you, hey, we don't... It's Powell saying, look, I don't think we need to do more, which raises the question, not begs, but raises the question, so why'd you go 50 here? And
I've got an attempt at an answer, but you go ahead.
No, all you.
So he was asked specifically about this and asked to consider. This was a question from Victoria Guida with Politico. Get to the exact part of the question. Do you see today's 50 basis point move as partially a response to the fact that you didn't cut in July, and that sort of gets you to the same place? And so here's the context of what she's talking about. The Federal Reserve met on July 30th and 31st. Their press conference was on the 31st. That was the last time they did it. The following week, I've got to take a look at my calendar here, but the following week, you had a jobs report, and that jobs report was the one that freaked everybody out. If everybody remembers the 2 days
Pets' heads are falling off.
Yeah, 2 days in August. That jobs report came out, 2 days later on that Friday, August 2nd, and indicated that unemployment raised up to 4.3%. We had a SOM rule trigger. And so what she was asking is, hey, had you had that information at your meeting, do you think you would have cut by 25 basis points? And his answer was really, as clear as the Fed does answer. If you ask, if we'd gotten the July report before the meeting, would we have cut? We might well have. And so in that context, I look at this 50 basis point cut not as an emergency, but rather a response to data that they just didn't have at their last meeting. If it were truly an emergency, by the way, they don't wait for the next meeting.
No.
There's plenty of instances where the Fed says, this is an emergency, we're not meeting right now, but we called a special meting and rates are getting cut by a full percentage point.
Right. If you want the last time this happened, you don't have to go back very far. You can go back to March of 2020.
Yeah.
Might have even been February. I don't remember the exact date that they decided, but they were like, nope, we're taking rates to 0.
Right. So
bye.
So I think there's plenty of evidence to indicate this wasn't viewed as an emergency. It was not viewed as the sky is falling. And I think Powell actually did a fairly successful job of conveying that. Maybe he didn't get, you also had at the same time markets selling off while he was speaking. And so I have to kind of put those two together. But I think that was largely because it isn't an emergency. And so don't expect us to do another 50 later this year.
Now, getting back to the SEP, because this is, again, I said before this meeting that, hey, what they do at that meeting isn't the important thing. The important thing is what they guide is going to happen. Like, that's the big juicy steak that you actually get to eat. And here's what's really interesting about the SEP. Is the SEP, and not surprising in some respects, because if the Fed didn't believe that its policy would get the outcome they wanted, then they wouldn't conduct that policy. But the Fed is pretty much saying, look, we're going to cut interest rates a couple more times by the end of this year. We're planning to cut rates another 1% by the end of next year. And if we do that, we're going to stem the tide of unemployment. We're going to stop it at 4.4%. So it might go up a little bit more just because it's in transit.
Sure.
But we're not going to let it go up further than that. We are going to be able to do so without GDP going below 2%. And we are going to be able to do it with PCE inflation continuing to decline to 2.1 and core PCE continuing to decline to 2.2. That, my friends, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, boys and girls, that is the soft landing.
Yeah, we've talked about this.
If they do it. Now, look, our definition at the beginning of the year, we said, look, if you get to the end of the year and inflation is not back above 4.5 and unemployment is not above 4.5, you can say you got the soft landing, because things that happen in 2025, like, they're not a result of this whole cycle. Like, it's kind of a new cycle there. And I maintain that. If we get through the next 3 months and unemployment hasn't gone to 4.5, quite honestly, and this is, I'm not going to say it's hard for me to do. I mean, look, you go where the data takes you. I thought Powell did a rather terrible job in 2022 in particular.
Yep.
You probably tip your cap and say, Jay, you've kind of landed this thing then. Like, you did it, man. It's a good job. It's a job well done. So that's where we are if things go right. But let's take a quick break. And when we come back, let's talk about the odds of things going exactly as the Fed is projecting right here in the SEP. We'll do that when we return.
The latest news on inflation, the Fed, the economy, and how the markets are reacting every morning, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network. SAB Solutions Incorporated can track your assets and inventory to ensure that your business functions seamlessly. If you own a business and are in need of a more proficient tracking system, SAB Solutions can help. They're a trusted advisor with over 15 years of experience managing the products for a variety of businesses using automated data and digital technologies. Inaccurate inventory levels can have a negative effect on your customers. Let SAB Solutions do for your business what it's done for countless others. For a no-cost assessment, visit sabsolutionsma.com. That's sabsolutionsma.com. Trusts are essential documents that can help protect your assets from the nursing home. Call Cushing & Dolan right now at 866-848-5699 and get their free guide called Demystifying the Top 7 Estate Planning Trusts. Let them help determine which is right for you. That's 866-848-5699 or request the guide online by visiting their website at legalexchangeshow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
The IRS doesn't let you keep retirement funds indefinitely, so make sure you understand the rules related to required minimum distributions. Hi, this is Chuck Zodda from the Armstrong Advisory Group. It's important for you to know that you must begin taking minimal annual withdrawals from your traditional IRA, simple IRA, 401k plan, or other retirement accounts once you reach a certain age. These annual withdrawals will be included in your taxable income, except for any part that was already taxed. When to take these withdrawals depends on your exact age, so as you build your retirement strategy, the rules regarding RMDs become even more important. Call us right now at 800-393-4001 and ask for your copy of the new free guide called Frequently Asked Questions About RMDs. That number again is 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. Summer is coming to an end, so it's time to take out your planner and book a spectacular vacation in the U.S. Virgin Islands, America's Caribbean paradise. St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John are three of the most incredible islands anywhere in the Caribbean, and their popularity is at an all-time high. Go to visitusvi.com and check out the American Caribbean, where you'll find all the information you need to book a trip that you'll never forget. If you act fast, you can still celebrate New Year's on St. Croix and enjoy the St. Croix Crucian Festival from December 26th through January 4th. Enjoy world-class cuisine, pristine beaches, a wide variety of water sports, and some of the greatest musical acts the islands have to offer. Travel to and from New England is simple, and your stay will be hassle-free, because this is the American Caribbean. There's no passport needed and no money to exchange. Fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands on your trip to America's Caribbean paradise. Go to visitusvi.com and make your plans today. That's visitusvi.com.
We are the Debt Destroyer Network. Any debt you have, credit card, tax, student loan debt, call now for free information that helps you destroy your debt. It's great advice. Plus, when you make this free call now, we have Debt Destroyer experts ready to help. They can show you how to destroy your debt and get your life back on track. Debt problems don't have to be overwhelming. You can live stress-free and debt-free. credit cards, medical bills, IRS tax problems, even student loan debt. Learn about free programs offered by the credit card companies, hospitals, and even the government that can help slash your debt. Call the Debt Destroyer now for free information. Call now. 800-430-8804. 800-430-8804. 800-430-8804. Again, that's 800-430-8804.
Miss any of the show? Catch up at your convenience by visiting financialexchangeshow.com and clicking the on-demand icon where you'll find all of our interviews and full shows. This is your home for the latest business and financial news in New England and around the country. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Our economy is strong overall and has made significant progress toward our goals over the past 2 years. The labor market has cooled from its formerly overheated state. Inflation has eased substantially from a peak of 7% to an estimated 2.2% as of August. We're committed to maintaining our economy's strength by supporting maximum employment and returning inflation to our 2% goal. Today, the Federal Open Market Committee decided to reduce the degree of policy restraint by lowering our policy interest rate by 0.5 percentage point. This decision reflects our growing confidence that with an appropriate recalibration of our policy stance, strength in the labor market can be maintained in a context of moderate growth and inflation moving sustainably down to 2%.
So Jay is obviously taking his victory lap now.
I wish everyone could see the smile on Tucker's face right now.
It was well done.
Quality.
It's well done. It's well
High
done.
school, right?
Oh yeah, fantastic. So Jay is sitting there saying, "Guys, we've done this." Now the question is, hey, have you actually gotten across the finish line? And we're gonna know pretty quickly, in my opinion, because we continue to get more and more economic data this week. I don't even know what we've covered from this week because, honestly, everything's just been like fed.
It's been a whirlwind.
But retail sales on Tuesday came in better than expected, so that boosted up the Atlanta Fed's nowcast of GDP to 3% for the quarter. Yesterday, we got building permits and housing starts, both of which jumped significantly from the prior month. Building permits jumping by about a 5% annualized rate. Housing starts jumping by an almost 10% annualized rate. And today, this morning, we had weekly jobless claims that came in 11,000 below expectations. The Philly Fed Manufacturing Index came out with better than expected survey results. The only place where we missed by a little bit was existing home sales, which missed by about 1% and continue to be sluggish at the moment. But overall, the story behind the economic data the last few weeks, aside from continued slowing in the labor market, is that data is starting to firm up and suggest that a recession is a little less likely now than it might have been a few weeks ago. You're still not out of the woods. There still is, some distance that needs to be covered, but the data is starting to improve somewhat. So, in terms of Jay's two risks to the soft landing, unemployment rising or inflation rebounding, at least by year end, there is no case at this point for inflation being above 4.5%.
Yeah, we've talked about the outside ones. It'd be really tough to see it by year end.
If inflation's 4.5% by year end, the entire Middle East is blown up.
Yeah.
Like something has gone horribly, dreadfully wrong there, and oil is at $200 a barrel.
Yeah.
Like that is the only case.
Which is really tough to see these days given both U.S. production and the Biden administration's willingness to tap the SPR.
Correct. Again, weird things could happen in the Middle East that override any short-term levers that you can pull. But that's the only way inflation comes in over 4.5% by year end. Unemployment, on the other hand, hey, look, you're at 4.2 right now. If you just take up 0.1%, for the next 3 months, you're going to be at 4.5, which is not where you want to be because that's more than a 1% rise from the previous low that we were at last year. And there's a question that was raised in Powell's press conference yesterday by Gianna Smielek from the New York Times. And yeah, if you have the question and then his answer's like, it's the shortest answer Jay Powell's ever given.
Yeah. So you and your colleagues in your economic projections today see the unemployment rate climbing to 4.4% and staying there. Obviously, historically, the unemployment rate climbs that much over a relatively short period of time. It doesn't typically just stop. It continues increasing. She goes on. Jerome Powell's answer here, which in my opinion was the single question and response that response to a question that he gave that was pretty much an admission that we don't know. We don't have an answer. And
it wasn't even an admission of that. He didn't answer the question.
So his response. So again, the labor market is actually in solid condition.
Which, by the way, is the exact opposite of this. Really was really like chafing my wheat yesterday when I was looking at this.
Chafing your wheat? What century are we in?
Who cares? The first thing that Jay Powell says, he gets asked a question by Steve Leisman from CNBC, which is a good question. Like, hey, why'd you do this, guy?
Well, there were like 4 questions, but yeah.
Well, this was the first. Yeah.
Yeah.
Powell literally,
there was
he paused.
So many
everybody
questions.
laughed. He paused. He goes, "Okay, that was a bunch of questions."
Yeah.
His quote on it, and I don't have the exact thing. He said the payroll report numbers that we're getting right now might be artificially high after the QCEW. That's the annual adjustment that they did a couple weeks ago or a couple months ago, whenever it was. We also got the Beige Book and determined that this is the right thing to do. So the first answer that Powell gives yesterday,
labor market's weak.
Hey, we think the labor market is not as strong as it's being indicated.
Right.
And then he comes out, and Mike, I want you to read my parentheses that I put in my notes here after he said the labor market is in solid condition.
This completely contradicts what he said at the outset and totally didn't answer the question about unemployment rising quickly once it gets to this point.
So, like, in real time, I was basically, like, that's the equivalent of me screaming at my computer.
Yeah, the answer that he gave on this is, well, he didn't answer the question. And quite honestly, I know why he didn't answer the question, because there is no answer to that question.
They don't know.
If you look at history, when unemployment goes up by more than 0.5% within a 12-month period, which it did back in July, 100% of the time in modern history, it's led to recession.
The counter to this is there is absolutely nothing in economics that is reliable 100% of the time.
Correct.
And if there's ever a business cycle that has broken economic indicators more often than any other previous business cycle in history, it's this one. There's like I could list off just the top of my head like a half dozen things that worked in previous cycles where if you used them in this one, you were in a really bad spot. So nobody knows is the answer to this. Like, in theory, once unemployment starts rising like this, usually pretty bad things happen, and unemployment doesn't stop rising until it gets to like 5.5 or 6%.
Yeah,
and you also need like 400 basis points, like 3 to 4% of rate cuts in order to stem the tide there. So we'll see where this ends up going, but that's the immediate risk. Let's take a quick break here. When we come back, we got Wall Street Watch, and then we're talking more Fed because, again,
all that matters.
The stakes have been delivered, and boy, are they juicy.
Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter @TFE Show. Breaking business news is always first, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Discover the fish and farm market at the Boston Fish Pier. Open every Saturday from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. in Boston Seaport. From fresh seafood to juicy tomatoes and sweet corn to grab-and-go options, indulge in the peak of summer's bounty. Support local farmers and enjoy the freshest ingredients all summer long. Sponsored by Mass Farmers Markets, a nonprofit dedicated to championing farmers markets across Massachusetts. Find a market near you at massfarmersmarkets.org.
This Veterans Day weekend, help honor all who have served this country. Join us on Saturday, November 9th for the 9th Annual Disabled American Veterans 5K Boston. It's a run and walk to support the DAV Department of Massachusetts. Saturday, November 9th at DCR's Castle Island in South Boston. Together, let's honor all who have sacrificed for our freedom. Register or donate now at dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
Cardiovascular disease is the #1 killer of women,
taking the lives of 1 in 3.
That's more than all forms of cancer combined.
For too long, heart disease and stroke have taken the lives of the women we love.
But we're not giving up because we have something better,
stronger, more powerful.
We have each other.
When we come together and go red,
the more power we have against our greatest health threat.
Visit goredforwomen.org today to learn more.
Saving money in an IRA or a 401k can provide tax advantages and are excellent ways to help make sure you're financially prepared for retirement. Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group, and if you're nearing retirement, you need to be aware of the federal regulations regarding required minimum distributions. Once you reach a certain age, you must begin withdrawing money from these accounts. RMDs can influence which accounts to withdraw from first and how much you'll owe in taxes during retirement. If you need information regarding the rules related to RMDs, call us at 800-393-4001 and ask for your copy of our new free guide called Frequently Asked Questions about Required Minimum Distributions. RMDs are a core element to your retirement strategy, and this guide can help educate you on the rules related to them. That number again, 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
Here at the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, we are committed to all students not only attending, but succeeding at school. Your presence is powerful. Share why you attend at doe.mass.edu.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education.
This is Tucker Silva of the Financial Exchange Show, and I'm joined today by estate planning attorney Todd Lutzke from the law firm of Cushing & Dolan with your Financial Exchange Quick Tip of the Day. And today we're talking about your new guide, Todd, Demystifying the Top 7 Estate Planning Trusts. If there are younger families out there, should they consider having a trust in place, and what type?
Most people don't think about it when you're young, but if you're a young family, meaning you've got minor children, you might not have a ton of assets yet, but you want to make sure that what you do have is protected for your children. You could probably use a revocable trust. I don't think you need an irrevocable trust, but a revocable trust. You put your assets in. Again, they're going to avoid probate. Again, it may or may not be a big estate tax issue at the moment, but whatever you have, your children can't own, right? They are minors. So you don't necessarily want to leave your assets to a guardian and have the guardian deal with everything when you can design a trust to hold the assets and ensure how and when and where and why they get these assets. Just pick the right trustee, put the language you need in the trust to control it for those children, and the trust will accomplish that task. So just because you're young, folks, doesn't mean you shouldn't think about your estate planning. Sometimes it's not all about the money and the probate and the taxes, but more so about the family behind the estate plan.
The estate planning experts at Cushing & Dolan have been helping families like yours for more than 30 years, and they have written a brand new guide called Demystifying the Top 7 Estate Planning Trusts. Call right now for your free copy, 866-848-5699. That's 866-848-5699, or you can request it from their website, legalexchangeshow.com.
The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing and Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. Time now for Wall Street Watch. A complete look at what's moving markets so far today, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Well, looks like Wall Street's encouraged by the Fed's half percentage point interest rate cut yesterday, with markets now in rally mode. At the moment, the Dow is up by 1.25% or 518 points. S&P 500 is up by over 1.75% or 103 points. And the Nasdaq surging by nearly 3% so far today, up 497 points. Russell 2000 is up by 1.2% as well. 10-year Treasury yield is up by 4 basis points at 3.73%, and crude oil up just over 1%, trading at $71.66 a barrel. Several chip makers are seeing gains today in the tech rally. NVIDIA and ASML shares are up by 5%, while Micron up by 2%, and ARM Holdings up by about 3%. Aside from the Fed, Darden Restaurants reported second quarter results ahead of the open, missing on both earnings and revenue expectations as its sales weakened at Olive Garden and its fine dining restaurants like the Capitol Grill. However, Darden announced a multi-year partnership with Uber for on-demand delivery later this year. Darden shares jumping by 7%. Speaking of food delivery, shares in DoorDash up by 4.5%. After the company's stock was upgraded by BTIG to buy from neutral, where the investment firm said that growth still looks strong in the third quarter despite concerns about a weakening consumer. Meanwhile, AT&T agreed to remove 8 miles of lead-covered cables from Lake Tahoe following a lengty legal battle with an environmental group. AT&T shares are down by 1.5%. And after today's closing bell, we'll see second quarter results from FedEx and Lennar. I'm Tucker Silva, and that's Wall Street Watch.
Folks, I want to briefly talk to you about a live broadcast that we're doing, actually a series of live broadcasts that we are doing in October. The first one's coming up on October 8th at the MGM Springfield. Second one's going to be at the Margaritaville Hotel and Resort on Hyannis. That one's October 24th. Like I said, we're going to be doing a live broadcast of this show. Followed by that, we'll be doing a seminar from the Armstrong Advisory Group all about the upcoming election, the impact on the economy, markets, different policy that's being discussed from either of the two candidates, and what it might all mean for you, the investor. First, so the MGM Hotel in Springfield on Tuesday, October 8th, will be broadcasting from the hotel, which is directly connected to the casino. There's free parking in the MGM lot. You'll simply take the elevator down to the casino floor, short walk to the hotel from there, and then at the Margaritaville Hotel and Resort in Hyannis, that one's October 24th. Special guest Ed Lambert will be joining us as well, the host of the XTK Morning Show. So once again, a live broadcast of the Financial Exchange, October 8th and 24th. For more information, you can go to armstrongadvisory.com/events. You can learn all about the events, when we're having them. All the details are right there. And to register, because there is limited availability here, so you do need to register for these two events. Again, it's armstrongadvisory.com/events. We can also help you sign up if you're having any issues. The phone number for the Armstrong Advisory Group is 800-393-4001. But again, check it out. Two events, October 8th, October 24th, Springfield and Hyannis. armstrongadvisory.com/events.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
So in the last segment, we were talking about the path to the soft landing, and we kind of covered, look, it's pretty unlikely that you see inflation become a problem in the next 3 months. Unemployment could continue to rise. Like if there is a recession, unemployment will rise past 4.5%.
But again, further on that, we get these weekly jobless claims numbers, and it's not showing up yet there. Something that we've continued to be a little bit surprised by. The filings for unemployment have not ticked up. So that continues to be a positive signal on the labor market.
On the other side of things, when we look out past this year, because again, look, the end of the year is 3 1/3 months away now. I mean, it's getting we're getting down to it. We're almost in 2025.
Chuck's already got his Christmas trees out
for next year.
Yeah,
I'm a year ahead on my trees. That's how
we know.
Excited I am. But no, you can't do your Christmas trees before Thanksgiving. You can't get decorations out a holiday early.
I'm right there with you.
It's like no Halloween before Labor Day. That's just problematic.
Yeah, not according to Home Depot.
I'm aware.
Yeah.
But when we look at 2025, I do think there's an interesting thought exercise to be had in terms of okay, we looked at this year, and the risk is still, hey, the Fed might not have done enough, and that could result in higher unemployment and a slower economy. The other side of this is, hey, what if the economy is stronger than it showed over the summer? Because that was the case last year. Remember last year, the summer, we ended up with about a 10% sell-off heading into, I think it was either September or maybe even early October.
Yeah.
And then the market popped because the economic data got better. And we had another quarter of, low inflation numbers before it bounced up a little bit in Q1 of last year. And overall, the growth rebounded, and growth has been good in the first half of this year for which we have data so far. So here's the question that I think is worth exploring. What if we just went through another little bit of a summer growth slowdown? And what if the data that we're getting now is starting to show a bounce similar to last summer, except this time the bounce is being aided by lower rates that are going to result in more housing activity, more borrowing activity, more buying of different things, and coupled with that, hey, this happens globally because emerging market central banks are now free to start cutting their interest rates. China might decide, okay, now that the U.S. isn't pushing against us as far as monetary policy, we can, inject some stimulus and not feel the same pain. What if we end up with a situation where, hey, maybe inflation has bottomed at, 2.25%, 2.5%, and again, there's nothing out there to suggest we're going back to 9. So let's keep this realistic, and please, if you're someone who thinks that hyperinflation is a thing in the United States, it's not. So let's not take this out of context here.
But
what if
3.5?
What if there's a chance inflation goes back into the 3.5 to 4 range, and now those long-term treasuries that are at 3.6, 3.7, they're off sides, and you're saying, okay, is this something that we need to worry about? Maybe. It's, again, these are paths that are possibilities. None of us know where the heck this is going to end up. But both higher unemployment and higher inflation are still possible in 2025, even if there's no immediate impulse for higher inflation this year, and the jobs picture is still problematic in the next few months.
It's not our job to tell you what to worry about, but in terms of the risks that are on my mind, the one I'm most concerned of is higher unemployment.
Right, exactly. Which it's the one that the Fed's most concerned with too.
They're
because
clearly they wouldn't
it's
have cut.
Showing up in the data.
They wouldn't have cut unless they were most concerned about that, and I think that's the one that sticks in the back of my mind. When I go out to 2025, that's still the concern that sticks in my mind because you've had this upward trend, and so does it push higher? On the other hand, can I imagine an economy where interest rates on 30-year mortgages start approaching 5%, and suddenly there's a whole bunch of optimism about borrowing money to go buy that house, or finally not feeling so rate locked and selling that house, and that resulting in a whole bunch of economic activity, which may or may not lead to higher inflation? I don't think it's a certainty that it does. I can see a number of different scenarios if we avoid that uptick in unemployment. It could just be a really strong growth scenario with inflation sticking around. It could also mean a really strong growth scenario with, I'll call it slightly uncomfortable inflation, at which point the Fed can't cut quite as much as they are currently projecting.
And there is the possibility that, hey, the Fed is right on in what they think is going to happen, and we get the soft landing and everything's great. That is a possibility too. Remember the beginning of this year where, by the way, before we do that, I got to yell at someone else. Do you remember the beginning of this month when the S&P 500 lost 4% in the first 4 or 5 trading days? And we had all those pieces written about, well, this is the suck that you get in September markets. And we said, hey, let's pump the brakes. We're 10% through the month. You can't call it out. Okay, well, we're at new all-time highs on the S&P 500 today. And there still is time to go before the end of the month, so maybe it all falls apart in the next 2 weeks. Very possible. But this is why trying to write pieces about seasonality in your current month when you're 3 days into it is generally for clicks and not for anything useful.
I believe the headline you were referring to was on September 9th. September is once again a tough month for stocks.
That's the one.
Wall Street Journal.
That's the one. And if we look at the S&P 500 this month thus far now, the S&P 500 and I have receipts because I keep them. It opened the month at 56.23. It's now at 57.12. That is almost a 2% rise over the course of the month thus far. Again, if it pukes in the next 2 weeks, then we can actually be like, hey, September was another bad month, and I'm happy to say that then. But imagine if you read those September stories, oh, gee, September's another bad month.
10 days ago.
Sold out, on the 6th when the market bottomed, and we're like, oh, gee, this is going to be easy. And now the market is rallied 6 or 7% from that bottom. That's why I don't like that piece.
Right.
Going back further in time, beginning of the year, what was everyone concerned about after Q1, Mike?
Inflation.
It was high inflation. We had a few high inflation readings, and here we are 6 months later, and the story has changed because unemployment has been rising and inflation's been coming down, and we're in a different spot. It's not hard to envision a world where 6 months from now, in March of next year, hey, maybe unemployment has stopped rising, and inflation has bottomed and now might be the bigger concern. And I'm not saying it will or won't be, but things can change in 6 months, and this is why I don't like long-term projections, because even within this year, we've been through 3 different economic mini-cycles, and not mini-cycles, but 3 different sets of narratives regarding the economy.
Yeah.
And to simply go and be like, oh, here's where we're going to be, next year for certain, please. Let's take a quick break here. When we come back.
Here's what I want to do when we come back.
Yeah, what do you want? Yeah.
We've spent a lot of time talking about, a lot of the technicals of all of this. Let's assume for a moment that a few of our listeners don't follow the market all that closely. I want to talk about practical stuff in terms of what yesterday's meeting meant for all of us. Quick break. We'll cover that next.
Missed one of our shows? Catch up anytime by asking your Alexa smart speaker to play The Financial Exchange. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Last year, we introduced you to Mark Vaughter, CEO of Veterans Development Corporation. Mark is a career military man, and we're proud to have him back as the presenting sponsor of the 2024 DAV 5K Boston.
I joined the Marine Corps when I was 18 and served proudly from 1981 to 1984. As CEO of Veterans Development Corporation, my goal is to give back to the veteran community, many of whom are employees of this company. This is one of the reasons I am so excited to be partnering with the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts on this year's DAV 5K Boston. The DAV works tirelessly to support many of our disabled veterans and provide them access to critical services that help them live comfortably every day. I hope to be part of many more success stories of our vets being able to achieve their goals and dreams when their service ends.
Veterans Development Corporation is proud to be the presenting sponsor of this year's DAV 5K, taking place on Saturday, November 9th at Fort Independence in South Boston. To register for this year's race, visit dav5k.boston.
Cushing & Dolan are experts in elder life planning and taxation. They know that every family is unique and that every estate plan must be different. Early planning is crucial if you want a stress-free retirement, and trusts are oftentimes the document of choice to help protect your assets. But with so many kinds of trusts, you need to learn about which one is right for your plan. Revocable and irrevocable trusts are most common, but there are several differences, as well as numerous tax implications with each. If you're ready to start your planning or need to refresh an existing plan, call Cushing & Dolan and ask for their new guide called Demystifying the Top 7 Estate Planning Trusts. Learn how to protect your assets and potentially eliminate your estate taxes. Call 866-848-5699 right now and ask for your guide today. That's 866-848-5699 or request it online at legalexchangeshow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. Summer is coming to an end, so it's time to take out your planner and book a spectacular vacation in the U.S. Virgin Islands, America's Caribbean paradise. St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John are 3 of the most incredible islands anywhere in the Caribbean, and their popularity is at an all-time high. Go to visitusvi.com and check out the American Caribbean, where you'll find all the information you need to book a trip that you'll never forget. If you act fast, you can still celebrate New Year's on St. Croix and enjoy the St. Croix Crucian Festival from December 26th through January February 4th. Enjoy world-class cuisine, pristine beaches, a wide variety of water sports, and some of the greatest musical acts the islands have to offer. Travel to and from New England is simple, and your stay will be hassle-free because this is the American Caribbean. There's no passport needed and no money to exchange. Fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands on your trip to America's Caribbean paradise. Go to visitusvi.com and make your plans today. That's visitusvi.com.
Hey, listen, are you a 50-year-old person looking for term life insurance? Then you need to talk to Bob. Bob specializes in helping people find $1 million or more of term life insurance for a couple of $100 a month. Look, you need to know there's a price war in the term life insurance business, and you may be paying too much. Call Bob, and he'll shop and see how much money he can save you. Look, this could be the last term life insurance policy you ever have. Your rates are guaranteed for the next 20 years. That's right, guaranteed level rates for the next 20 years. And if you're a smoker or your health is not perfect, Bob has great rates for you too. So for $1 million of term life insurance coverage for a couple of $100 a month, call Bob right now. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. That's 800-965-7987. Paid for by Term Direct.
Find daily interviews and full shows of the Financial Exchange on our YouTube page. Like us on YouTube and get caught up on anything and everything you might have missed. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
This segment of the Financial Exchange is brought to you in part by the U.S. Virgin Islands Department of Tourism. The U.S. Virgin Islands are St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John. Summer is just about over, so now's the time to start looking at a fabulous holiday vacation. And then there's no place better than the U.S. Virgin Islands. Enjoy perfect weather, world-class dining, incredible beaches, and a vibrant nightlife. No passport is needed, and there's no money to exchange. Take your next vacation in America's Caribbean paradise, the United States Virgin Islands. Go to visitusvi.com to book your trip. That's visitusvi.com.
Mike, I know you wanted to kind of get into, hey, for the average person, where's the rubber meet the road on these rate cuts? So let's do that. And kind of get into it. So the first question that I have seen asked quite a bit is, okay, does this mean that mortgage rates are now 0.5% less?
No. But there's good news there, though. It's just had nothing to do with the Fed.
It did have something to do with the Fed.
Yeah, it had something to do with what the Fed was indicating. But over the last, let's call it 11 months, mortgage rates have come down by almost a full 2 percentage points. You were up over 8% in October of last year. And you are now, according to Mortgage News Daily, on the 30-year fixed at 6.15%. But yesterday...
Again, that's not looking at points or anything like that,
Sure.
so you can easily get that rate into the 5s.
But yesterday, technically, long-term rates like the 10-year Treasury from which mortgage rates are derived, they went up.
Yep.
They went up on, potential growth expectations and the economy doing pretty well.
Now, let's say you have a mortgage that's out there already. If it's a fixed-rate mortgage, what the Fed did yesterday doesn't impact your mortgage payment in any way, shape, or form.
Of course.
Doesn't change it. In the case of some variable-rate mortgages, depending on the terms in the contract, and again, they're all different in terms of the rate that they're indexed to. Some are indexed to Fed funds rates, some are indexed to SOFR, some are indexed to the prime rate. There's a million different places that you can go. But some of them will adjust down if you're through that, fixed period and into the readjustment period. And so you may see that as soon as your next payment, depending on the terms of the contract. Again, sometimes they do yearly, sometimes it's month to month. You have to look at your specific adjustable rate mortgage.
Home equity line of credit, likewise, should immediately adjust.
Correct. If you have credit card debt outstanding, most of those are tied to either the Fed funds rate or the prime rate. The prime rate typically moves in lockstep with the Fed funds rate. It's higher typically, but it usually moves down when the Fed funds rate does as well. And so there's a pretty good chance that credit card rates are going to adjust as soon as the next monthly payment as well. Again, it's by 0.5%. Remember, the average credit card interest rate is now north of 22%, so it's not like you're getting some huge drop in the interest rate there. But if you're carrying a balance on a credit card, it can provide a little bit of modest relief in that respect. And remember, the Fed is pricing in
25% interest. Now I'm down to 24.5.
Baby steps.
Yeah.
Baby steps.
Yeah.
Other things. Let's say you have a high-yield savings account or a money market account at a bank. More likely than not, the interest rates on those might have already been coming down in the last month or two, but otherwise a lot of those accounts may be adjusted downward by the institutions to better reflect where short-term rates are today. So that's something that you might see on that side of things. CD rates are not changed directly by the Fed, but again, longer-term rates, 1, 2, 3, 4 years, have been coming down over the course of the summer. And as such, CD rates have already dropped over the course of the summer from, you could get some, in the 5% range for, a couple of years earlier in the summer. You're down into the mid to high threes now. Is that accurate, Mike?
Yeah, if you are out on a couple-year CD, you're in the high threes. I'm looking now at 3-month CDs and treasuries, which is your closest thing to Fed funds, and you're looking at 4 3/4.
Yep. I will say, as much excitement as a rate cut generates for borrowers, I will say the ability to easily go and find, products anywhere from 3 months out to 5 years that were at 5 to 5.25%. I'm going to miss that a little bit.
Looking pretty nice.
I'm going to miss that a little bit.
I got a question yesterday that was a tougher one to answer, which is, this was specifically from a woman who was listing her home and hadn't really gotten any bites, but what's it mean for the real estate market when the Fed embarks on a cutting cycle? And I don't know that I have an answer.
Depends on the cycle.
Yeah.
In 2008, it was still very bad.
Yeah.
Because the real estate market was the source of the problems.
Right.
In other markets, it's not necessarily, in other cutting cycles, that's not necessarily the case because not all cutting cycles are caused by over-leverage in the housing market.
And certainly this one is not.
This one, if you look at pretty much any metric out there, delinquencies and foreclosures are still well below 2019 levels. The amount of equity in homes is at an all-time high right now. So this is not a housing-caused cutting cycle. And as such, there is the potential for some additional activity, but
I could see some excitement being built on the part of buyers after the publicity that yesterday got.
Yeah, I mean, and look, it might show up right in time for the spring housing season. It has the potential to be a very busy spring in housing, but it depends on how the next 6 months go. If you get a recession showing up in 2 months,
not so much.
Probably not going to be the busiest housing season in the spring. Quick break here, hour 2 coming up in a little bit.
Despite overwhelming support from Democrats and Republicans, time is running out for Congress to pass the AM Radio for Every Vehicle Act, which will keep AM radio in cars. Text AM to 52886 and ask Congress to bring this bill to a vote now. AM radio is too important to let this moment pass us by.
Message and data rates may apply. You may receive up to 4 messages a month, and you may text STOP to stop.
This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
Summer is coming to an end, so it's time to take out your planner and book a spectacular vacation in the U.S. Virgin Islands, America's Caribbean paradise. St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John are 3 of the most incredible islands anywhere in the Caribbean, and their popularity is at an all-time high. Go to visitusvi.com and check out the American Caribbean, where you'll find all the information you need to book a trip that you'll never forget. If you act fast, you can still celebrate New Year's on St. Croix and enjoy the St. Croix Crucian Festival from December 26th through January 4th. Enjoy world-class cuisine, pristine beaches, a wide variety of water sports, and some of the greatest musical acts the islands have to offer. Travel to and from New England is simple, and your stay will be hassle-free because this is the American Caribbean. There's no passport needed and no money to exchange. Fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands on your trip to America's Caribbean paradise. Go to visitusvi.com and make your plans today. That's visitusvi.com.
Sometimes we know what's next. Other times, it's impossible to know. Life can change in an instant. Don't be caught standing by the next time someone's heart stops. Knowing CPR gives you the ability to act and takes you from bystander to lifesaver. CPR is a life-saving skill. Join the nation of lifesavers today by learning CPR at heart.org/nation. National support for CPR education provided by Elevance Health Foundation.
Every single day, more than 2,000 U.S. companies face a cyber threat or attack. The Boston Red Sox and Fenway Park chose Centripetal as their official cyber network security partner to ensure the protection of their network and ballpark. Intelligence is the answer to protecting your network, and Centripetal is the global leader of intelligence-powered cybersecurity. The choice is yours. Are you going to be another one of those attacked companies? Or are you ready to experience a radical new cybersecurity solution? Find out why the Red Sox chose Centripetal at www.centripetal.ai. Trusts are essential documents that can help protect your assets from the nursing home. Call Cushing & Dolan right now at 866-848-5699 and get their free guide called Demystifying the Top 7 Estate Planning Trusts. Let them help determine which is right for you. That's 866-848-5699 or request the guide online by visiting their website at LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. This is the Money Matters Radio Network. WBNW 1120 AM and W275 CM FM. Concord, Boston. The Money Matters Radio Network.
Hi, this is Chuck and Mike from the Armstrong Advisory Group, and we have a guide available this month titled Frequently Asked Questions About RMDs. Mike, one of the places where there's been a huge change in the last few years is with regards to inherited IRAs and whether individuals are required to take money out of them on an annual basis. What is the latest guidance from the IRS?
Well, the latest guidance is that it still depends. It depends on so much and so many complicating factors. Were you married at the time that you passed away? What's the age difference between you and the person who passed away? Are you older or younger? When did the person pass away? I could go on at length here, Chuck, but there are a lot of complicating factors. But generally speaking, yes, you are going to be subject to a required minimum distribution in most cases when you inherit a retirement.
And for someone who is inheriting a retirement account from someone other than a spouse, there also is this 10-year period with which you must exhaust the account completely, so you're going to have to end up having all of that come out as taxable income, even if your RMDs don't satisfy that 10-year requirement.
Yeah, they really like to complicate this, and so you've got two competing formulas in there at all times about what you have to do with a retirement account that's inherited. Really, really complicated stuff, Joe.
It's a really complex issue. If you like to learn more about this topic, the guide again is titled Frequently Asked Questions About RMDs, and the way to request it is by calling 800-393-4001. That guide again is titled Frequently Asked Questions About RMDs, and the phone number is 800-393-4001. The
proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
Are you retired like me and you just found out you owe the IRS a ton of money? Well, what would your life be like if they took your retirement savings away from you? They can do it and your property. If you owe the IRS back taxes or you haven't filed in a while, the tax relief line is here to help you. They can stop the IRS from taking your retirement savings. If you qualify, you could have your tax bill reduced to zero. That's right. If you're retired and you owe the IRS a lot in back taxes, you could have your entire tax bill reduced to zero due. The IRS has now hired thousands of new employees, so they're ready to come after you. Don't let them take your retirement savings or property. Make this free call now.
800-251-2153. 800-251-2153. 800-251-2153. That's 800-251-2153.
Discover the fish and farm market at the Boston Fish Pier. Open every Saturday from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. in Boston Seaport. From fresh seafood to juicy tomatoes and sweet corn to grab-and-go options, indulge in the peak of summer's bounty. Support local farmers and enjoy the freshest ingredients all summer long. Sponsored by Mass Farmers Markets, a nonprofit dedicated to championing farmers markets across Massachusetts. Find a market near you at massfarmersmarkets.org.
Hi, I'm Lisa Hughes. This Veterans Day weekend, help honor all who've served our country and join WBZ for the annual DAV 5K. A run or walk to support disabled vets here in Massachusetts with housing, transportation, and other critical support. Saturday, November 9th at DCR's Castle Island in South Boston. Let's thank all who have sacrificed for our freedom and help our heroes on their road to recovery. Visit DAV5K.Boston to register or donate today.
The DAV 5K Boston is presented by Veterans Development Corporation.
Protecting your assets is your most important financial responsibility, and irrevocable trusts can help you. Keep your assets safe from probate and the nursing home by calling Cushing & Dolan right now at 866-848-5699. Get their new guide called Unlocking the Power of Irrevocable Medicaid Trusts. That's 866-848-5699, or request it online by visiting LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
For 40 years, Cancer Support Community has been a relentless ally for anyone impacted by cancer, with free services provided online and in person, with their newest location in Massachusetts. Connect with Cancer Support Community Massachusetts for free emotional support, educational resources, patient navigation, financial counseling, and more. 617-797-3391. CancerSupportMass.org, CancerSupportMass.org.
The Financial Exchange is produced by Money Matters Radio and is hosted by employees of the Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. All opinions expressed are solely those of the hosts, do not reflect the opinions of Armstrong Advisory or anyone else. Investments can lose money. This program does not offer any specific financial or investment advice. Please consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong Advisory and the advertisers heard on this program do not endorse each other or their services. Armstrong and Money Matters Radio do not compensate each other for referrals and are not affiliated. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Mike Armstrong. Your exclusive look at business and financial news affecting your day, your city, your world. Stay informed and up to date about economic and market trends, plus breaking business news every day. The Financial Exchange is a proud partner of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. Help us support our great American heroes by visiting DAV5K.Boston and making a donation today. The DAV 5K Boston is presented by Veterans Development Corporation. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Mike Armstrong.
Kicking off the second hour of the Financial Exchange, it's Chuck, Mike, and Tucker with you, and stocks are ripping. It's the technical term. They're up 376 points on the Dow. The S&P's up 89. NASDAQ's up 445. So anywhere between about a 1 and a 2.5% jump in equities today. Where's it being led by? I'll give you three guesses, and none of them count Michael.
Low rates.
No, it's being led by tech.
Sorry, the sector of the market.
It's okay. It's fine. It was a little confusing. You got NVIDIA up over 4%, Apple up over 3%, Meta up over 3%, Tesla up over 5%, Broadcom up over 3%, AMD up over 5%. It's tech that's ripping today. Other places that are cruising along, energy is up nicely, materials up nicely. What's lagging? You've got consumer staples, utilities, real estate, healthcare, all kind of dragging a little bit at the moment. In terms of other markets, 10-year U.S. Treasury is up 4.5 basis points to 3.732%. So, hey, great. The Fed cut interest rates yesterday. 10-year went up 5 basis points yesterday, 4.5 today, so almost 10 basis points in about a day and a half. You got oil up 49 cents a barrel on West Texas Intermediate to 71.40. And we've got gold up $7.30 to $2,605.90 an ounce. In case you missed it yesterday, which is really hard because I even saw like non-news outlets covering this.
The Disney Channel was covering it.
No, honestly, it
was close.
Nickelodeon slime.
I'm gonna test something.
Oh my God! Can you imagine Nickelodeon doing the same NFL
Powell
version of Sliming Powell? Oh, I want to see the Nickelodeon coverage of a J. Powell conference so badly.
So I just checked. The Fed rate cut decision is not currently on the front page of People. So it didn't make it there. I'm assuming it's not on ESPN. But look, it's basically everywhere. Everyone and their grandmother's been talking about this.
Yeah.
And so the Fed did cut interest rates by 0.5%. yesterday. They guided for 2 additional 0.25% cuts by the end of this year and 4 0.25% cuts by the end of next year, so a total of 2 percentage points in cuts priced in by the end of next year. The Fed thinks unemployment might continue to rise a little bit more, up to 4.4%, but they don't see it going higher than that. They think inflation is going to continue to come down, and so they're basically saying, hey, we think we're really close to the soft landing, and we're just doing this to prevent the labor market from weakening the way that it potentially could if we took no action.
Yeah. We know people have questions. You can text the show at 617-362-1385. Some questions we have answers to, others we don't. But
we don't know what the meaning of life is.
No. Well, you speak for yourself. But happy to ponder questions and discuss them out loud and kind of go back and forth on this stuff. But the key takeaway is that the Fed did cut rates. They did a 50 basis point cut, which is not normal. That's not the standard operating procedure. It's not what they prefer to do. They like in a normal environment to do 25. And we will see where this thing goes. Ultimately, also interesting on the market side of things with markets did close down yesterday. They were up on the announcement, up for the beginning of Powell's speech, and then as that went on, ended up closing very slightly down. We're down 0.25% on the S&P thereabouts.
Yeah, nothing huge, maybe like 1/3%. So it was.
But to see this surge today, sometimes you just need overnight to digest what was actually said and what it actually might mean. And traders this morning interpreting it as growth.
Well, and look, the other thing to remember, I know that we're always very U.S. focused because we live in the United States.
True.
Look, the Bank of Japan meets tomorrow. They could pour a bunch of cold water on this in a hurry if they do something unexpected there. So there's never any one story that's done. Like, markets are always evolving. They're always changing. There's always a new narrative that's coming up. And so you have to evolve your views with them. Otherwise, you risk getting left behind in markets.
The other proof of growth being the story of the day, we've got the yield on the 10-year Treasury. It was up yesterday, and it's moving up again today. So we're now, over a full percentage point higher than where we were 2 days ago tenth of a percentage point higher on the 10-year Treasury yield. A full percentage point would be a pretty wild shift for 2 days.
It would be.
But yeah, again, speaks to that confidence about growth, soft landing, and no recession that traders have this morning anyway.
We'll see where things develop over the next 3 to 6 months, but again, we've been concerned about the unemployment rate. Today we got weekly jobless claims. The seasonally adjusted number came in at 219,000, which is 11,000 below where they were last week, and below expectations. We also, when we look at the not seasonally adjusted numbers there, they came in at 184,000, which is right in line with the past few years of normal economies. I exclude basically 2020 through 2022 because things were abnormal then. But you look at 23 and 2019 and 18, and this is basically the same seasonal pattern we've been seeing. So there's no sign of increased layoffs or unemployment claims on that side of things.
Got a question from, I think, either an email or the text line. Does a bank have to follow a guideline for setting a mortgage rate? Or couldn't, in theory, a bank set any rate they want because they're the one lending out the money? Yeah. Mortgage rates and what banks choose to lend the money out on is entirely a bank decision and has nothing to do with the Federal Reserve. In theory, I guess it directionally guides where the rates will be. But, yeah, if a bank out there is really looking for a whole bunch of new 30-year mortgage rates and wants those loans, they can discount and say, hey, yeah, we're offering mortgage rates at 5.75 right now, even though the average, according to Mortgage News Daily today, is 6.15%.
And a couple things that banks have to deal with as they're trying to set their rates. The first is, okay, can we be profitable at this rate? There are costs associated with running the bank, from just your basic overhead, keeping the lights on, to the different insurance that you need to have in order to operate it, all of the stuff that you have to do from a regulatory perspective. There's a whole bunch that goes into actually running a bank. And so, in theory, look, a bank could come out and say, yeah, we want to set our interest rate for 30-year fixed rate mortgage at 2%. but they're probably not going to be able to make money on that.
And again, I mean, 2% is an extreme, but the reason why here does have to do with the Fed and this Fed funds rate and that overnight. I mean, where does the Fed interject that lending rate cost into the bank?
Well, it's really, a bank needs to attract deposits.
Yeah.
And because remember, in banking, everything's kind of backwards. So even though you think of a deposit as like your asset, to the bank, the deposit's a liability.
Yeah. Because
it can leave at any time. And so if a bank says, okay, we've got to attract deposits, and if they're not Bank of America where they can just pay 0.01 or 2% because everyone's just inertiaed over there, and yes, I did just turn inertia into a verb.
Yep.
Which is great, by the way. I'm going to start using that more. If I am, a small community bank, especially one starting up, I might say, look, I might have to pay 3 or 4% in order to attract people to my bank because there are other banks paying that in deposits. Okay, if I'm paying out 3 or 4%, plus I've got my operating costs, maybe net on each dollar, I'm paying 5% for, all of my costs. Okay, that means I probably got to set my rate at, 5.5 to 6 if I want profit in this environment. And so I can do that. Or, hey, if I'm more cautious, I might set my rates higher just to have a wider gap in case inflation comes back or something unexpected happens. And that's how rates get set for mortgage products and things like that in the market.
Right.
Now, banks have always had one problem, which reared its head last year. Deposits are short term. They can come and go. If you got a 30-year fixed rate mortgage on your books, it's on your books. It's a long-term loan that you have, even though your deposits are short-term that you're holding. So that's one of the things that banks have to navigate as well. And ultimately, that's what ended up blowing up Silicon Valley Bank last year, was a mismatch between loans and deposits, where deposits fled, and, hey, we're still stuck with all these long-term loans that have now gone down in value. Kind of a problem. Let's take a quick break here. When we come back, we're going to be joined by Matt Gagnon or Gagnon. I don't know. Is it Gagnon? Gagnon?
Matt Gagnon.
Chief Executive Officer of the Maine Policy Institute. Oh, it's
Matt. You speak to him like once a week.
I know. I saw it on the schedule here.
It's very official on the schedule.
I know. It looks more official than I typically talk. So, yeah, it's Matt Gagnon from the Maine Policy Institute. He's the Chief Executive Officer there. He's also the WGAN morning show host, and Matt's going to join us right after this.
Tune in for Trivia, brought to you by Applebee's. Every day at 11:20 for your chance to win cool prizes. Text us at 617-362-1385 and use keyword Applebee's. Complete rules are available at financialexchangeshow.com. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network. Summer is coming to an end, so it's time to take out your planner and book a spectacular vacation in the U.S. Virgin Islands, America's Caribbean paradise. St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John are 3 of the most incredible islands anywhere in the Caribbean, and their popularity is at an all-time high. Go to visitusvi.com and check out the American Caribbean, where you'll find all the information you need to book a trip that you'll never forget. If you act fast, you can still celebrate New Year's on St. Croix and enjoy the St. Croix Crucian Festival from December 26th through January 4th. Enjoy world-class cuisine, pristine beaches, a wide variety of water sports, and some of the greatest musical acts the islands have to offer. Travel to and from New England is simple, and your stay will be hassle-free because this is the American Caribbean. There's no passport needed and no money to exchange. Fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands on your trip to America's Caribbean paradise. Go to visitusvi.com and make your plans today. That's visitusvi.com.
Hi, I'm Lisa Hughes. This Veterans Day weekend, help honor all who've served our country and join WBZ for the annual DAV 5K, a run or walk to support disabled vets here in Massachusetts with housing, transportation, and other critical support. Saturday, November 9th at DCR's Castle Island in South Boston. Let's thank all who have sacrificed for our freedom and help our heroes on their road to recovery. Visit DAV5K.Boston to register or donate today.
The DAV 5K Boston is presented by Veterans Development Corporation.
Trusts are essential documents that can help protect your assets from the nursing home. Call Cushing & Dolan right now at 866-848-5699 and get their free guide called Demystifying the Top 7 Estate Planning Trusts. Let them help determine which is right for you. That's 866-848-5699 or request the guide online by visiting their website at legalexchangeshow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Congress is poised to pass a bill to keep AM radio in cars, but time is running out. 82 million Americans risk losing the news, sports, talk, traffic, and vital emergency information they rely on. Text AM to 52886 and tell Congress to pass this bill now.
Message and data rates may apply. You may receive up to 4 messages a month, and you may text STOP to stop.
This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
Environmental nonprofit Ocean River Institute is working with communities to tackle climate change with nature-based solutions that feature slowing water down and building more soil with grasses and plants. Research indicates that people acting in their own neighborhoods can build an inch of soil in a year and slow sea level rise down by as much as 25%. Please visit oceanriver.org for more information on opportunities to make a difference and go the distance for savvy stewardship of a greener and bluer planet Earth.
If you're approaching or have recently reached the age of 73, required minimum distributions should be a key consideration as you evaluate your retirement strategy. Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. There are several factors to think about when it comes to RMDs, including the types of accounts that require RMDs, when to take your withdrawals, how your RMD is calculated, and the penalty for missing all or part of an RMD. That's what our new guide this month is all about. It's called Frequently Asked Questions About Required Minimum Distributions, and you can get your copy today by calling 800-393-4001. RMDs are a key part of your retirement strategy, so don't delay. Get your guide today by calling 800-393-4001. That number one more time, 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. This is your home for the most comprehensive coverage of the economy and the trends on Wall Street. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
The Financial Exchange is a proud partner of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. This year's race is Saturday, November 9th at Fort Independence on Castle Island, and registration's now open. Help us support these great American heroes by visiting DAV5K.Boston and registering for this year's race. Your gifts will support a wide variety of initiatives like the DAV Transportation Program, which takes disabled vets to important medical appointments that supply both the physical and mental care they need. For more information or to make a donation, visit DAV5K.Boston. The DAV5K Boston is presented by Veterans Development Corporation.
Matt Gagnon is the Chief Executive Officer of the Maine Policy Institute. He's also the host of the WGAN Morning News, the show that precedes our own up in Portland, Maine, from 6 to 9 every day on WGAN. Matt, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
It's a pleasure to be back again.
So, Chuck and I do a lot of talking pre and post Federal Reserve meeting. It kind of gets to the point where we see a lot of this stuff eye to eye. I'm curious, from your perspective, what were your main one or two takeaways from what Jerome Powell had to say and do regarding interest rates yesterday?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think that the clear vibe that I was left with, if I can call it a vibe, is that he's interested in being aggressive. Obviously, the half point break that we got there is clearly on the more aggressive side, but they also seem to be signaling that they're going to continue to do so. And that, to me, signals a couple things. I mean, for one, I think that they feel like they have gotten a handle on inflation enough that it is not terribly risky to do that. Yeah. Whether they're right about that's a different conversation probably. But,
certainly.
But I think that they are seeing things in the economy right now that worry them to the extent that they want to be able to take aggressive action to try to, blunt any problem with unemployment and keep the economy running and keeping it out of recession. So I think that it called in their minds for something fairly, I don't know if I would call it bold, but bolder than a lot of people might have been expecting.
Yeah, I think it was bold. I think, we talked about before how this was the first time you had a voting member contradict Jay Powell or any Federal Reserve chair since 2005, so that's not a common occurrence either. But on the equity market side, at least, you have markets responding with a lot of optimism here about that boldness and seemingly a lack of concern about either higher inflation or recession. I mean, look, how markets react the day after a Fed rate cut should not be used to indicate much of anything. But are we taking a bit of a preemptive victory lap on the soft landing here?
Yeah, I don't know. We might be. I mean, the thing is that the reaction in the markets is obviously just psychological. It doesn't mean that they know anything that you or I don't know. I think they're just reacting to the positive news. Ultimately, this is a dangerous thing to bank on if you're them, in my opinion, because if you think that inflation has been whipped, to use an old term from the 70s, and then it ends up not being, I mean, it really undermines the credibility of the Federal Reserve. You got to go back in time a little bit to the time before the inflation problem really began to become an issue, before it really exploded. There were predictions that we were going to be able to be stable, to largely avoid inflation. When inflation began, it was pitched by a lot of these very same people as being somewhat temporary and really not as big as it ended up being in the end. And then that really cut into the notion of these people being sort of the grand marionettes of our economy. They're not. They don't have a crystal ball, and really no one does. The economy is far too large and far too complex to be able to truly know how to direct it, to control it, to centrally plan it, and to manage it in the way that the Federal Reserve oftentimes thinks that it is. So I hope they're right. I do. I hope that they're right and that inflation can stay in the low twos or even continue to drop. Who knows? But I am not terribly comfortable with the notion that it is, and we'll see. I mean, it's very uncertain in my point of view.
Matt, when we look at the impact of this cut on families and households throughout the country, obviously, housing's one area where high rates have, really hampered, housing markets in recent years with much lower volumes coming through. And so when we talk about the economic activity that could be generated as a result of this, look, long-term interest rates and mortgage rates have come down a lot, so one would think that there's the potential setting up for the spring of next year to be kind of a bumper housing season. And I think it's all about, hey, does that materialize, and does that start to generate those inflationary pressures again? Your thoughts?
Yeah, it's entirely possible that it does. I mean, if it does start to generate some fluidity in the housing market, for instance, I mean, like I know on my block, right, where I live, about 4 or 5 people who my wife and I are friends with who would like to sell their house right now, but they just think it's insanity. It's not a wise time to do it. The interest rates being what they are, they have a low rate now, and if they were to sell, they would have to have a high rate for a much more expensive house, so they're just sitting on it. So if it suddenly loosens up and it becomes more financially feasible for you to be able to kind of maybe move your house and do that kind of thing, it has, I think, the great potential to exacerbate the issues that exist with inflation by really reintroducing a lot of that additional supply and it's definitely additional demand into the system. It might make things really hot. But it might take longer than just a rate cut or two to do that, too. And remember that the tail on this is not immediate. I mean, we're going to see virtually nothing happen to anything for a little while with this rate cut. It's going to take a while to have that baked into the pie. So, yeah, you're definitely talking about early part of next year. You might be talking about mid part of next year or late next year where some of this stuff really starts to matter. And then when it does, what does it ultimately do?
Matt Gagnon, he is the Chief Executive Officer of the Maine Policy Institute. He's also the host of the WGAN Morning Show, and join us today to talk about the Federal Reserve and their bold 50 basis point cut yesterday. Matt, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it, and talk to you again soon.
Appreciate it, guys. Thanks.
All right, let's do a little bit of trivia here on the Financial Exchange, and it's brought to you by Applebee's. Take your friends or family to any area Applebee's and enjoy half-price late-night appetizers after 9 p.m., including boneless wings, spinach and artichoke dip, and warm pretzels dipped in beer cheese. And don't forget to join Club Applebee's to enjoy exclusive deals and specials. You'll get a free appetizer just for signing up. Now, that's eating good in the neighborhood. Void where prohibited. Dine-in only. Today is Jimmy Fallon's 50th birthday. Fallon came to fame during his 6-year run on SNL. Fallon followed up his tenure on SNL with 5 years of hosting late night on NBC. Since 2014, Jimmy Fallon has been the host of The Tonight Show. Trivia question today: how many people hosted The Tonight Show before Jimmy Fallon? Once again, how many people hosted The Tonight Show before Jimmy Fallon? Be the fourth person today to text us at 617-362-1385 with the correct answer. You can win a Financial Exchange Show t-shirt and be registered to win a $100 gift card to Applebee's. Be sure to include the keyword Applebee's in your text, and we'll give away that Applebee's gift card tomorrow, 617-362-1385, and the fourth correct response will be our winner. See complete contest rules at financialexchangeshow.com.
Taking a look at markets, still a lot of green on the board. The Dow now up 443 points, the S&P up 96, NASDAQ up 482. So really just a lot of green in your major indices. You do still have some individual names that are lagging behind, as always happens. But overall, pretty strong day the day after the Fed. Again, it doesn't necessarily mean anything about where things go from here, but looking like we got a realistic chance at new all-time highs for the close on the S&P 500 by the end of the day. Quick break. Trivia answers next.
Bringing the latest financial news straight to your radio every day. It's the Financial Exchange on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
For 40 years, Cancer Support Community has been a relentless ally for anyone impacted by cancer, with free services provided online and in person, with their newest location in Massachusetts. Connect with Cancer Support Community Massachusetts for free emotional support, educational resources, patient navigation, financial counseling, and more. 617-797-3391. CancerSupportMass.org. CancerSupportMass.org.
We are the Debt Destroyer Network. Any debt you have, credit card, tax, student loan debt, call now for free information that helps you destroy your debt. It's great advice. Plus, when you make this free call now, we have Debt Destroyer experts ready to help. They can show you how to destroy your debt and get your life back on track. Debt problems don't have to be overwhelming. You can live stress-free and debt-free. Credit cards, medical bills, IRS tax problems, even student loan debt. Learn about free programs offered by the credit card companies, hospitals, and even the government that can help slash your debt. Call the Debt Destroyer now for free information. Call now. 800-430-8804. 800-430-8804. 800-430-8804. Again, that's 800-430-8804.
Discover the fish and farm market at the Boston Fish Pier. Open every Saturday from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. in Boston Seaport. From fresh seafood to juicy tomatoes and sweet corn to grab-and-go options, indulge in the peak of summer's bounty. Support local farmers and enjoy the freshest ingredients all summer long. Sponsored by Mass Farmers Markets, a nonprofit dedicated to championing farmers markets across Massachusetts. Find a market near you at massfarmersmarkets.org.
Last year, we introduced you to Mark Vaughter, CEO of Veterans Development Corporation. Mark is a career military man, and we're proud to have him back as the presenting sponsor of the 2024 DAV 5K Boston.
I joined the Marine Corps when I was 18 and served proudly from 1981 to 1984. As CEO of Veterans Development Corporation, my goal is to give back to the veteran community, many of whom are employees of this company. This is one of the reasons I am so excited to be partnering with the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts on this year's DAV 5K Boston. The DAV works tirelessly to support many of our disabled veterans and provide them access to critical services that help them live comfortably every day. I hope to be part of many more success stories of our vets being able to achieve their goals and dreams when their service ends.
Veterans Development Corporation is proud to be the presenting sponsor of this year's DAV 5K, taking place on Saturday, November 9th at Fort Independence in South Boston. To register for this year's race, visit dav5k.boston.
This is Tucker Silva of the Financial Exchange Show, and I'm joined today by estate planning attorney Todd Lutzke from the law firm of Cushing & Dolan with your Financial Exchange quick tip of the day. And today, we're talking about your new guide, Todd, Demystifying the Top 7 Estate Planning Trusts. Now, do you lose control if you transfer your assets to an irrevocable trust in order to protect them from long-term care expenses?
Well, you know, that's great when you mention that irrevocable trust, but limit it to the kind of trust where you're over protecting it from the cost of long-term care. Because as the guide says, there's 7 different kinds of trust that we're trying to demystify. And there's also many kinds of irrevocable trusts out there, not just one type. So many people think there's just one type. But this particular type, where you're trying to protect it from the cost of long-term care expenses, the answer is no. You do not lose control over your assets. There's a whole spectrum of control with irrevocable trusts. And this one, you keep about 95% control. Like, you can live in your house. You can sell your house. You can buy another house. You can invest your money. You can manage your money. You can collect the income. Even the tax liability of these trusts are designed to be at your own rate. In other words, they are grantor trusts. You don't even pay any higher income taxes when you have this irrevocable trust. So this kind of trust, folks, you keep control and you protect your assets from the cost of long-term care.
Call right now for your free copy of Cushing & Dolan's comprehensive guide titled Demystifying the Top 7 Estate Planning Trusts. It will help you determine what type of trust is right for you and your family. Call 866-848-5699. That's 866-848-5699. Or you can request it from LegalExchangeShow.com.
The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. Miss any of the show? The Financial Exchange Show podcast is available on Apple, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Hit the subscribe button and leave us a 5-star review. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Trivia question today was, how many people hosted The Tonight Show before Jimmy Fallon? That would be 5. The Tonight Show first aired in 1954 with Steve Allen as host, followed by Jack Parr until 62. Johnny Carson took over The Tonight Show and hosted until 1992, followed by Jay Leno, Conan O'Brien, back to Leno, and finally, Jimmy Fallon. Winner today of the Financial Exchange Show t-shirt was Matt from East Boston. Matt is also registered to win a $100 gift card to Applebee's, which we'll give away tomorrow. And trivia is brought to you by Applebee's. Enjoy half-price late-night appetizers after 9 p.m. and join Club Applebee's. To enjoy exclusive deals and specials, you'll get a free appetizer just for signing up. Now that's eating good in the neighborhood. Void where prohibited. Dine in only.
Boeing is in the midst of a strike of its unionized workers in Washington State, and as a result, they're trying to do a whole bunch of stuff, but
they're trying to avoid a credit downgrade.
Yeah,
ultimately is what they're trying to do.
They're going to start
here.
furloughing employees for 1 week out of every 4 weeks as long as the strike continues.
These are, by the way, not blue-collar workers. In part, they are furloughing some of their white-collar workers to cut costs here because if you're not manufacturing planes, then you're kind of sitting there twiddling your thumbs even if you're not on the assembly line.
Correct. Also, the executive team is going to be taking a 25% pay cut. I know it's not, Okay, let's be honest here. If you're in the C-suite at Boeing, you're getting paid pretty well.
Sure.
You should not take a pay cut that is commensurate with everyone else. It should be larger, even if it's just symbolic.
I guess. But on the other hand, the CEO got here like yesterday.
It's fine. He knew what
he was getting into.
Listen, you're the CEO of Boeing. You don't get sympathy for being like, oh, you got to take a pay cut after you just got signed up there. Is that going to be too bad? No, dude, you knew what you were getting into.
Yeah.
You knew that this was a possibility.
Yeah.
The guy's 65 years old, I think. Or 50, he's in his late 50s, early 60s. It's not someone where you're like, oh, I feel bad that he's going to have to take a pay cut. He just signed up to be the CEO of Boeing.
64.
64, thank you. Again, he kind of knew the job was going to suck.
Yeah. Well, it's sucking.
It is. So
it's following through on that promise.
Yes. Do you think he's woken up every day this week like, why did I do this?
Hard to say. Probably not. If you are a CEO of a company as large as Boeing, there's a little bit of...
But he was retired, man. Why do you come back to do this?
I get it. But if you are the CEO of a company like this, I mean, there's been a lot written about this. normal things don't impact you in terms of stuff that would bother you and I. There's a sociopath type of quality that comes to a lot of these American CEOs.
Maybe, but still, 2 weeks ago, you were sitting on the beach sipping Mai Tais.
Mm-hmm.
Potentially for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And now this is what you're dealing with.
Yeah. But if I turn it around, then my name will be written in the history books. That's what's going through your mind as the CEO of Boeing. Not, this is annoying. I could be sipping Mai Tais. You're probably miserable sipping Mai Tais. If you are willing to take the job at Boeing, you were absolutely miserable sitting on the beach, sipping Mai Tais. You hated your life, and that's why you did this.
Probably
This
true.
is Mike trying to assess Kelly Ortberg's psychological well-being. So I don't know that any of this is accurate, but that's what I imagine with Fortune 500 CEOs of American publicly traded companies. Yeah.
Now I want a Mai Tai. Summer's coming to an end, so it's time to take out your planner and book a spectacular vacation in the U.S. Virgin Islands, America's Caribbean paradise. St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John are three of the most incredible islands anywhere in the Caribbean, and their popularity is at an all-time high. Go to visitusvi.com and check out the American Caribbean, where you'll find all the information you'll need to book a trip that you'll never forget. If you act fast, you can still celebrate New Year's on St. Croix and enjoy the St. Croix Crucian Festival from December 26th to January 4th. Enjoy world-class cuisine, pristine beaches, a wide variety of water sports, and some of the greatest musical acts the islands have to offer. Travel to and from New England is simple, and your stay will be hassle-free because this is the American Caribbean. There's no passport needed and no money to exchange. Fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands on your trip to America's Caribbean paradise. Go to visitusvi.com and make your plans today. That's visitusvi.com.
I'm going to come out there and say, Tucker, that I think Mai Tai might be one of my least favorite cocktails out there.
Honestly, don't think I've ever had one.
You're good for one, and then you're like, okay, I'm not going to have another one.
Don't think I've ever had one.
All of a sudden, your teeth itch because it's so sweet.
Give me the mojito over the Mai Tai.
What goes into a Mai Tai? I honestly don't think I've ever had one.
I've got a recipe right here. Pineapple juice, orange juice, spiced rum, coconut rum, grenadine.
No, not for me. Don't want one.
Mojito's better.
Yeah.
More refreshing.
In either case.
Yeah, not for me. I'll pass. Piece in the Wall Street Journal. Tech jobs have dried up and aren't coming back soon. And we talked about this a little bit yesterday with Amazon and their return to work
5 day a
initiative.
week. Yep.
My theory is it's stealth layoffs.
Yeah, it's an easy way to do it.
It's, hey, if you don't like it, go somewhere else, and we can not fill your role, and that's how we're going to cut headcount.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of companies that are doing that. You've heard of a number of companies really getting granular with their tracking data of their employees, ensuring that they're actually showing up to those days of the week that they're expected to be in the office, which in Amazon's case is every day of the week. But my wife works for a company who just upped their work in the office policy, and I'm sure that they are tracking that and, including it for certainly their performance and bonus reviews. But, in the event that they decide, hey, we've got to reduce headcount, where are we going to go? Well, we're going to go to the ones that are not following policy of being in the office and working.
And overall, according to layoffs.fyi, the tech industry has shed about 137,000 jobs since January. That's not net, because this doesn't show which companies have also been, hiring. It's just tracking layoffs that are announced. But that is, still a meaningful number there. It's lower than what we saw in 2022, pretty significantly. But you still do have some layoffs that are poking up there. And more, I think we're just seeing companies where when someone leaves, they're really taking a look at, hey, do we actually need to backfill that position and bring someone new in? Or does that position not really have a purpose here anymore?
I've got a couple questions, and the first one is how much of this might be AI related? And I don't necessarily mean that AI is replacing these jobs. I just more mean that it might be a different skill set than the average coder before.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that either. The second question, how do you feel about the strategy of Glenn Kugelman, who lost his job and printed off 150 flyers advertising recently laid off, looking for a new job, with a QR code linking to his LinkedIn page? and duct taped them to telephone poles all across New York City.
Well, I feel kind of bad for Glenn because the fact that he's been interviewed for this piece means he hasn't been hired.
True.
Which means it probably hasn't worked that well.
While I think this is tacky, I love the innovative. Remember I don't even know if it's a true story, but do you remember the story of the guy who started delivering donuts with his resume printed on the box to a bunch of offices to try and get a job?
No.
Again, I love these innovative ways of getting your foot in the door because anybody that's had to apply to a job in the last decade can tell you it is terrible. Your resume oftentimes does not even get read by a human. They have an AI system or a pre-screening tool that's automatically going to filter you out. Plenty of people tell you, you apply to 100+ jobs these days in order to get one interview. So I applaud it, even if it didn't necessarily, in this case, land him the job he was looking for.
Yeah, it's a challenging market for tech workers right now, and all of the money is heading to AI. And so if you're in an auxiliary role, which is pretty much anything other than someone directly on the front lines for AI or sales for AI, you're kind of, even if someone has an open position, that position might be kind of on the back burner in a lot of cases.
I want to know where in the college education process is artificial intelligence training right now. I would imagine most top-of-the-line universities are already including that in some form of coursework because, quite honestly, if you're a graduating senior right now and you don't know how to prompt an artificial intelligence large language model, in my mind, you're behind the 8 ball.
I'm curious just because I haven't actually looked at this, so I'm going to check what Dartmouth has just for their stuff on this. They do have a whole course on artificial intelligence. They got a few different ones. It kind of depends on what you're looking for here. But I'm just looking at the upcoming winter stuff that they have there. And you've got, a couple different courses on machine learning. Let's see, there's actually the only one that's on artificial intelligence looks like it was a fall course that was offered spring.
I'm seeing one from my alma mater as well. I don't know the details of the course, but yeah, again, artificial intelligence.
They got one on spring. They got a couple of things that are kind of cool here. They got one on music and artificial intelligence, which must be kind of a party course. That's got to be awesome. And then deep learning, generalization, and robustness gets into probably some pretty heady stuff. Bunch of machine learning and all kinds of stuff there. But, you've got to be adapting your curriculum. Computer science is one area where you've got to be adapting probably on a 2 to 3 year timeline, adding courses pretty consistently. It's not math.
Yeah, it's
math. It's kind of well, we still have calculus.
This is what Pythagoras came up with, and it's still true.
Here's philosophy. This is what they thought back when the Greeks were roaming around and everything.
Yeah, computer science is moving a little faster.
By the way, you missed yesterday, Mike. We covered the who was it? YouGov did a poll on Americans' thoughts about the different ancient empires that existed. They polled Americans on favorable, unfavorable for ancient empires. They actually did this. I'm not making this up.
Okay,
it's a real thing. But the Huns had the most underwater favorability rankings at 14% favorable and 43% unfavorable.
Okay.
Whereas ancient Athens was the strongest at 54% favorable, 10% unfavorable.
Great infrastructure.
America is very anti-Hun these days.
Yeah, clearly.
Very anti-Hun.
That Attila?
Uh-huh.
That Attila really just ruined the brand.
Well, you know that Attila, he actually played football too. Actually, it was Jabba who played football.
Got it.
Jabba the Hutt Hike. Yeah.
Okay.
Anyways, it played better yesterday. Sorry. It's never as good the second time you tell it. This is why no one should be a stand-up, is because it hit once and you're like, yeah, I got it. No, you can never replicate it. Thank you, Tucker. Let's take a quick break to recover from that, and when we return, we've got Stack Roulette after this.
The Financial Exchange streams live on YouTube. Like our page and stay up to date on breaking business news all morning long. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
The IRS doesn't let you keep retirement funds indefinitely, so make sure you understand the rules related to required minimum distributions. Hi, this is Chuck Zodda from the Armstrong Advisory Group. It's important for you to know that you must begin taking minimal annual withdrawals from your traditional IRA, simple IRA, 401k plan, or other retirement accounts once you reach a certain age. These annual withdrawals will be included in your taxable income, except for any part that was already taxed. When to take these withdrawals depends on your exact age, so as you build your retirement strategy, the rules regarding RMDs become even more important. Call us right now at 800-393-4001 and ask for your copy of the new free guide called Frequently Asked Questions About RMDs. That number again is 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
For 40 years, Cancer Support Community has been a relentless ally for anyone impacted by cancer, with free services provided online and in person, with their newest location in Massachusetts. Connect with Cancer Support Community Massachusetts for free emotional support, educational resources, patient navigation, financial counseling, and more. 617-797-3391. CancerSupportMass.org. CancerSupportMass.org.
It happens all over Massachusetts.
Can you tie my shoes?
In every home and every community.
Be careful on your bike.
Learning can happen anytime, anywhere.
We'll see you at practice this weekend.
And no matter how learning takes place in your family's life, DESE is there as your partner. The Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Never stop learning. Find out more at mass.gov/back-to-school.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department for Elementary and Secondary Education.
Last year, we introduced you to Mark Vaughter, CEO of Veterans Development Corporation. Mark is a career military man, and we're proud to have him back as the presenting sponsor of the 2024 DAV 5K Boston.
I joined the Marine Corps when I was 18 and served proudly from 1981 to 1984. As CEO of Veterans Development Corporation, my goal is to give back to the veteran community, many of whom are employees of this company. This is one of the reasons I am so excited to be partnering with the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts on this year's DAV 5K Boston. The DAV works tirelessly to support many of our disabled veterans and provide them access to critical services that help them live comfortably every day. I hope to be part of many more success stories of our vets being able to achieve their goals and dreams when their service ends.
Veterans Development Corporation is proud to be the presenting sponsor of this year's DAV 5K, taking place on Saturday, November 9th at Fort Independence in South Boston. To register for this year's race, visit dav5k.boston.
Every single day, more than 2,000 U.S. companies face a cyber threat or attack. The Boston Red Sox in Fenway Park chose Centripetal as their official cyber network security partner to ensure the protection of their network and ballpark. Intelligence is the answer to protecting your network, and Centripetal is the global leader of intelligence-powered cybersecurity. The choice is yours. Are you going to be another one of those attacked companies? Or are you ready to experience a radical new cybersecurity solution? Find out why the Red Sox chose Centripetal at www.centripetal.ai. Trusts are essential documents that can help protect your assets from the nursing home. Call Cushing & Dolan right now at 866-848-5699 and get their free guide called Demystifying the Top 7 Estate Planning Trusts. Let them help determine which is right for you. That's 866-848-5699 or request the guide online by visiting their website at legalexchangeshow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. Business and financial news affecting the markets and your wallet. We've got it all straight from Wall Street right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Mike, what do you got for me for Stack Roulette?
Darden Restaurants. Not a great year for their stock. Stock is now up about 5.25% for the year and up about 7% today. Tucker mentioned they reported earnings overnight, or was it this morning?
This morning
they reported earnings. you're a restaurant company. You should report earnings after the bell at the night.
No, that's right in the middle of the busy period.
Yeah, I guess you're trying to wait tables. You don't want to be reporting earnings at that
exactly.
stage.
No.
Big misses really across the board here, and nonetheless, stock moving up on really commentary from the CEO, but earnings missed. And I do wonder what exactly it speaks to in terms of consumers' willingness to spend. They represent a broad swath of different types of restaurants, from Olive Garden to what's their high-end steakhouse?
Capital Grill.
Capital Grill. And, seeing a pullback in spending here. I also do openly wonder, you mentioned, Tucker, a partnership with Uber Eats?
Yes.
Or DoorDash?
Yeah, at the end of this year, yeah.
How do you get...
It was Uber Eats, not DoorDash.
How do you get unlimited breadsticks with Uber Eats? I don't think that's going to work out too well. But I'd be interested to keep an eye on...
It's a good question.
Yeah, tough to get unlimited breadsticks. The guy's not going to go back and forth all day to get you your unlimited breadsticks.
They just got to bring you a ton. The whole back seat's filled with them.
This is one of very few companies that's publicly traded in the sit-down restaurant space. There's not a lot of other ones that give you a good viewpoint into how consumers are spending. And so I do find this significant just in terms of what it tells you about Americans' ability and willingness to spend at restaurants right now.
Yeah, it's tough also to get a read because they're in so many different categories.
Yeah, of course. I mean, quite high. I mean,
but the piece that is interesting is that they said the only division that reported same-store sales growth was Longhorn Steakhouse. Everything else, whether it's Olive Garden, whether it's Capital Grill, Yard House, everything else they had, same-store sale declines.
Yeah.
So that I think is something that's notable, and
none of their brands occupy the McDonald's space, I think is the other point here. There's no brand that they have that you can look at for the segment and say, oh, that's the place to get a really cheap dinner. I mean, Olive Garden to some extent occupies that
They've
space.
also got no fast casual space. Like
Yeah.
there's no Chipotle in there. There's no Panera in there. It's different fundamentally from both of those also. So there's that. Piece in Bloomberg. It's titled Salesforce is a dark horse in the AI race. First, I take exception with one of the 30 companies that's included in the Dow Jones Industrial Average being called a dark horse for anything. That's just not what a dark horse is.
Ever heard of this company, Salesforce?
Yeah, that's like, well, Microsoft is a dark horse to, have crab legs delivered to all employees. Like, I don't know, like they could do that.
They're a sleeper.
Yeah. So the Salesforce isn't really a dark horse. What it's talking about is, hey, all of the hype for AI right now is going towards one company, quite honestly.
Yeah.
OpenAI.
Yeah.
Like, who talks about Google's AI these days, aside from, I don't think we ever covered it.
Well, there's OpenAI. Then the next tier down is Microsoft, Google, and Facebook.
OpenAI is Microsoft. Like, it's viewed one and the same.
And then the tier down from that would be companies like Salesforce that nobody's really talking about when it comes to AI.
So I think part of it is just that OpenAI has sucked up all the oxygen in the room.
True.
But I did want to make sure we covered, just tangentially, did we ever cover any of the creepiness about what Google is putting together for its Photos app for Android now?
No.
Where you can delete and add stuff to photos using AI. Hey, put a dog in this picture, and
I can't imagine any nefarious purposes that could be used for.
Why do we need that?
We don't.
This is so stupid that we are now giving people the ability to just add stuff that wasn't there into photos.
Have you heard of Photoshop?
Well, yes, but you need to have some skill to do that, which is why most people don't.
And pay for it.
Yeah.
And so this is just, it's going to, where we're going is no one is going to trust any online information, even from their friends anymore.
100%.
You won't be able to.
That's where it's going.
We are going to kill the internet.
Start it over. Reset the internet.
We're going to have to move to the outer net.
Unplug it, plug it back in, folks.
Yeah, the outer net's coming once the internet dies.
Do it over again.
It's going to be like the internet, but out. Stocks remain positive as we conclude the show today. Hope you all have a great rest of the day, and we'll see you tomorrow to finish up the week on the Financial Exchange.